Second grade.
Is she really?
Yeah. We're looking at second grade. 7 years old. Now I have gray hair and moods in my hair.
I feel like Emily's going faster than Zach. Like, it's just growing.
Well, like Gabriel's a senior in high school this year. Like, because when he asked it, he's like, Jeremy, what? He said, oh, I have a college visit here and here. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I said, how this happened?
I'm sorry. Yeah, just give me one.
Who is that?
I just wanted to make sure. Yeah. He just gave me
Okay.
that this week, did he
All right.
not?
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I should have come and asked you. Yeah, just a lunch. Well, I kind of have a feeling about that. I mean, we do it for the fire department and they go to the academy. Like if they're evening days. Right, but to go to Biloxi, we don't. Yeah. Yeah, right.
Are you going? We just need
Thank
somebody
y'all.
there. I just.
And welcome back from the recess meeting, at our last meeting. I'll go ahead and call roll. Ward 1 Alderman, Mr. Burke is present. Ward 2 Alderman, Mr. Richardson is present. Ward 3 Alderman, Mr. LaFontaine is present. Ward 4 Alderman, Mr. Piazza is, I know he's here, he's not in the seat, but I know he's here. City Attorney, Mr. Jones. City Clerk, Ms. Fayard, and myself.
We'll do the pledge, Mayor.
We can. Y'all would join us in pledge allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In a moment of silent prayer, please. Okay, thank you. All right, 4 on the agenda, motion to approve an agreement with J&M Fireworks Displays for the presentation of fireworks at the Back to the Beach Labor Day event that's going to be held Sunday, September 4th.
Or do we need a motion to open the meeting?
I'll move to open the meeting, Mayor.
Gage
I thought we
seconds.
did that already.
Kirk second.
That's what we voted on earlier.
I don't think we voted on that one.
We did vote. Yeah,
No, we
I
didn't.
promise. We did vote.
I don't think we did.
I don't think we did.
All right, we did, but we're going to vote again.
Okay.
Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Here.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Yeah, I just done a roll call, not a,
That's
a
right.
vote.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Calling those names up.
Look, as bad as I feel today.
Now we have the motion to approve the agreement.
All right, do I have a motion on number 4 and a second?
I'll move.
I'll second. All right, discussion on number 4,
Yes, Mayor, may I speak?
please.
So I talked to Mr. Falgo, and he's been having some difficulty trying to find someone who can actually meet our specifications. And if you recall, the specification was to have some of the fireworks going to exceed 5 inches. And many of the people that he's reached out to and talked to that have he's spoken to aren't able to meet that requirement, if I understand it correctly. He did get a quote from Pop Brothers, I believe it is. And Tammy, did you provide that to the board?
I have not, no, sir.
Okay, well, let's pass that out
Yes,
there.
I'll go get it, it's upstairs.
Oh, you don't have it with you there?
I came down quickly to get set up, so
All
I'll
right.
get it.
Well, I don't know if it's necessary to get that, but we
Yes,
can.
sir.
So Pop Brothers actually submitted a quote. It's less in the dollar amount than the one from J&M. J&M, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. But unfortunately, their, again, did not meet the specification. And so they were quoting, as I was talking about earlier, 5 inches and below. So at this point, we only have one real quote from J&M Fireworks Display. Now, we have 2 choices. One is we can go ahead and keep looking to try to find someone who can meet the specification. 2, we can go ahead and change the specification to allow for, we'll call it a smaller show. Or 3, try to figure out some kind of way to make a determination that this is the only one. It's some sort of a sole source. I guess I just need to hear from the board what your pleasure is.
And I guess legality-wise, and it has to do with sole, I don't know if you consider it a sole source. I guess my issue is,
Yeah.
is obviously all eyes are on contracts, but if it's not apples to apples, and
Yeah.
and it has to do with, and I just remember doing lining of manhole covers. It took its
Right.
extensive to say, hey, we need a 5-year warranty, and it took an act of Congress. I don't know, you're the one who's legal counsel, but I don't know if you can say it's a sole source or not.
So it's difficult for me to say it's a sole source, to be honest with you, because typically that's not the kind of thing you see that's, it's usually like software that's proprietary or something that, like Bo the other day had to get some pipe and it had to have a certain bolt pattern to make
Yeah.
it work. Those are the kind of things that you think about as sole source. This is generally not that way. The only thing we can do is, I know time is of the essence because we're talking about an event that's coming up, what is it, September the 4th, and we have a little bit more time, and I guess if we had to pull together a special meeting, we could. But right now, I think Mr. Falgout is done, he's exhausted his ability to go and anybody else, right? Mr. Falgout? Yeah, I mean, you don't see given additional time to get anybody else, do you?
Can you come up, Mr. Lunny? Sorry.
Before he starts, I just want to say, there's several things to consider on the proposal that is it J&M? J&M
Yeah.
is doing, okay, as opposed to even Pops, okay? So Lonnie's gonna explain that to y'all.
Lonnie Fogel with Alice Mosley Museum, and the reason why we involved is for the donations that I made to y'all before. What basically I did, Mike called me 4 to 5 weeks ago and asked me to attend a meeting with Miss Brenda and the police department and all. He said they were looking for a source and they wanted to duplicate what y'all did at Celebration America, I think it was, that Miss Stoppenall got. So I went back and we pulled the records on what was done. This is the company that did your Celebration, Waveland or Destination Waveland. I went back and looked at the specs and they shot 7, 6, 5, 4-inch shells with a interluding 2 and 3 inch. So what I therefore did is I used that as my guideline on the information in the minutes that Ms. Fayard did. So first of all, I called a company out of Bogalusa, Louisiana that does 7-inch shells, and they're not licensed in the state of Mississippi. I called and had a conversation actually twice and once again today with Josh DeSalvo, who is in the fireworks business, and he said, I can help you, but I can't go over 5 inches because I'm not licensed, okay? Then I turned around and I got the quote from Pop Brothers, and if you go to their website, on their home page, they said we are licensed up to 5 inches. Well, as someone just said before, this is not apples and apples. So then I went to J&M. Let me just give you a background of J&M. They're real simple. First of all, they're licensed in all 50 states. They have done work for y'all before. They have done $35,000 shows for the city of Biloxi for the last 6 years. That's their
They're fireworks. I have personally used them when we have a celebration, which, Mike, you know, we have a community called Jordan River Community Association. We have, for the last 13 years, put on a show, and they have been with us for 9 years. Why? Because they're licensed, they're insured, they're bonded, and they can shoot shells over 5 inches. 5-inch shells, you can go to Bugaloosa and y'all could buy 5-inch shells, but that's not doing it with a show. When you're talking about a show, everything now is not done by hand. It's computer generated. And this is where these guys become a sole source. This particular event, the way they priced it was based on what they did at Destination America years ago. So they took it, they laid it out. There's a big, long proposal. They give you every shell that you're gonna shoot. What's the interlude? I think Tammy's got it, and I think they're gonna shoot like 398 different shells and everything. And this is a computer generated. One of the other reasons that I have used them as the administrator of Jordan River Community Association is very simple. That's that word that says liability. These people carry $10 million worth of liability. And if you look at the fine print, what a lot of people say, I have insurance and it's liability. Well, you don't want just liability insurance. We're shooting this stuff, whether it was Destination America 5 years ago or next week. If one of these shells goes astray and it hits a house 6 blocks away and it catches it on fire, they're covering it. Okay, when I did the shows, I had to have the city of Bay St. Louis on the policy. I had to have the Coast Guard on the policy. I had the Department of Marine Resources on the policy. Why? Because I shot them on a river. And this is why when I looked all up that it's over with in the meeting we had the other day with the police department and Tammy and the mayor was, it's not the bang for your buck, it's the overall show you're putting on. It's a good show, it's a national. And here's the other thing. I have researched. There's nobody in the state of Mississippi can put this show on. There's nobody licensed but these people. There's some few other ones that are smaller, but they're gonna give you $250,000 worth of liability, and that's not enough. Under your MML, you gotta have $1 million worth of coverage no matter what you do. So that's why, you know, we went with these people because they're the biggest, the best. And these people have done 8 Super Bowls, so that ought to tell you everything right there. And here's the kicker. If you look at the fine print, I've heard nobody mention it. The price at, with Pop Brothers is $11,900, if I remember reading it right. The price for these people is $16,000. What you're doing tonight, by approving this early, by paying it early, you get an 8% discount. I don't know if anybody even picked that up yet, but that's another $1,270 savings that's gonna come off that $16,000. So now this show is only gonna be 14 something, so you're only looking at a $2,000 difference. I think $2,000 difference in $10 million worth of insurance, I totally agree with your attorney. This is a sole source.
May I say something real quick,
Yeah.
please? Yeah. I know I've sat with Lonnie as he's making phone calls, trying to put the deals together with other companies and all. He has done due diligence. As he said, there's nobody out there. He had him on speakerphone. I heard him state saying, we can't do this, we can't do this, we can't do this, okay? This company is the only one that said, we will do it right. And not only that, look at the time that they're offering, minimum 22 minutes as opposed to 14 and a half minutes. And I'll tell y'all a little secret, it's probably gonna go longer than 22 minutes, okay? If it goes under 30 minutes, I'm gonna be shocked, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brenda. And thank you, Mr. Lonnie.
One other thing, Jeremy's got this in front of him, I presume if you look at this, and the guy didn't put it in his pricing, but he did put on there. At the end of the year, because of what they do, they have to close their warehouse out because it is explosives. If you look at the last few pages, you're gonna see that he's donating 8% worth of shows to Waveland for nothing. So, you know, the price of poker should go up, but like she just said, it's gonna go longer, but that is a donation. So he's not even charging for this. He's just, you're doing him a favor by letting him empty his warehouse. And he's throwing in an 8% show back on top of this, so.
Perfect, thank you.
I got a question here for Lonnie. Is this the same original as the Destination America?
That's what I was told. They used to go by the name of AFX Pro, which did the smaller shows. J&M is the national company which brings in a license when they do Super Bowls, when they do Biloxi and stuff like that, because they're shooting 6, 7, 8, and what they call crossfire shows. Those are the ones that go up vertically and turn horizontally. You can't just shoot them. You have to have it. So some company that they own, like J&M, is the Super Bowl's all the way down. And if you call and you want to do a $5,000 show at your house, then AFX Pro would come in, but it's the same company.
Now, why can't we go with 5? Why do we have to use 6?
Better show. I just went by what y'all did.
It goes higher, explodes bigger.
Better show.
We used to shoot them ourselves right out. The fire department used to do it years ago. So it definitely makes a difference.
They used the 6-inch years ago?
No, we use the 3, 4, and 5.
I think-
And we did have one fall over and shoot at firemen who was diving off in the water. So they're very dangerous.
Yeah.
No, and I guess this is my hold up of basically having 2 bids. If things were bid with not what we say with Destination Waveland, which was, 6 years ago, the original one, what probably has been done the last 4 and 5 years ago, whenever the last time we hosted one, it was probably, I'm just assuming, I was not part of it, like actual spending out spec, that it was, we were able to get 2 bids that were closer to apples. Right now, we have an Apple bid, and then we obviously have some orange bids being ones that aren't 5. I guess spending the $16,000 is, I'll say, not the issue. The issue is the attorney can't say this is a sole source.
I really
Because
can't. I want to clear that
Like,
up.
that's-
I'm just saying, it would take some doing, and one of the things you have to do for sole source is you have to have a certification that you put in your minutes and explain why you're going with the higher bid. It's obvious to me that the one from Pop Brothers does not meet the specification, so, and I'm not prepared to go ahead and say that it's a sole source tonight. The only thing I can tell you is that, if you want, I can try to investigate and see if other places like Biloxi or Gulfport or whatever, or maybe some of the larger casinos have some other vendors that could
Or-
potentially meet this. Or you have to change your specification and say, no, we're not gonna go with
To
the
make-
larger.
If you do that, that would probably be best if we're gonna have those, that would probably be best. If not, and I'm just gonna say, 4th of July fireworks display, there was one up in Diamond Head. I don't know if anybody went to it. And it was put on by this group.
Yeah.
I don't know what specs they had. I'm assuming they probably had 2 bids. But and I just remember J&M Displays was the one who put it on. It was like $9,000.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a way of we getting those specs and just try to spec those out.
Well, I can reach out to Mr. Riso, who's over in the Bay now, and ask him if he knows about it. I'm sure he'd share that
And
information.
it has
with me.
nothing to do with fire. There's gonna be fireworks. My problem is
Right.
I have an issue with trying, since it's not, this is more of a bid. This is not a service, correct, Malcolm?
It is not a service because you're buying the materials as
Yeah.
well. So, yeah, if it was a service, we wouldn't have to
We
worry
wouldn't have
about
this issue.
all this problem, right?
May I put this on the record?
Sure.
First of all, the deal from Diamond had Michael Riso, when he was the
Manager.
manager, reached out to us, and we gave him J&M because they did qualify. So I had a conversation, I went up there and spoke to Mike Riso,
Okay.
and I gave him J&M's information based on the history we had with him for 13 years. Mike Riso also is aware that y'all use J&M for Destination America.
Did they
Same
have 2
thing-
quotes up there, do you know?
They couldn't get anybody to shoot the bigger specs, and this is exactly. The other thing, and I have emails, and I'll be more than happy, when Mr. Chandler, who owns Pop Brothers, or manager of Pop, reached out to me and said he wanted the specs. I have emails saying, this is the specs we're using, and it was Destination America, so he was
Right.
well aware that Destination America was the specification.
Yeah.
He sent me a follow-up asking me how long, how many minutes, and everything. The same thing that was sent to J&M was sent to Mr. Chandler.
Okay.
Mr. Chandler waited to, and I don't know the gentleman, but
Yeah.
he has bid on other things we've done
Yeah.
for the last 6 years. He's also bid on a Biloxi show. So he was aware that this was Destination America specifications.
Okay.
And we didn't get a bid until, I think, Friday, like 10 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
and then y'all were already ready to have a
And
meeting
if I can
last.
say,
Right.
we didn't have to handle anything for Destination America. The production team from New York City came down and
Did
they
it all.
handled everything.
Yeah.
So the gentleman at Pop Brothers, and again, I don't know the gentleman, but he does bid on everything, and in some he's successful, some he isn't.
Right.
In this particular case, he did know the specifications were Destination America.
Yeah, so that's what you're saying, is he knew the specification, but he bid something else anyway.
That's correct.
Anyway.
Well, he bid something else, Malcolm, because legally, he can't bid anything
It's a
else.
different
Yeah.
class of
You
wire.
see, so when he sent me his cover sheet with a price of 11.9, his cover sheet shows I'm only able to shoot up to 5 inches.
Yeah,
So I guess with his quote shows that we could meet the specs.
right. What's the
And that's
pleasure?
what we based it on. It wasn't businesses, we based it on the specs we had in front of us.
Right,
And Brenda can tell you, and Mike Pendergrass and everybody was in that room. We spent a lot of time tracking these people down.
you can see that.
And we were just trying to match apples and apples and do a show for y'all. That's all this was.
What's the pleasure of the board?
And my only thing is, I mean, this is, we're getting down to the wire, as far as timeline goes. Let me ask you this, this says this agreement is made and entered into this 28th day of July, and it says the display is September 4th. What's the cutoff time for them needing some kind of an approval?
They already ordered it based on what we had. I mean, there's no guarantee, because y'all haven't approved it neither, but if you look at the date, I reached out, we started working on this for a week, and J&M is the only one that responded, so with you bringing that date, other companies had the opportunity to respond, and they didn't because legally they couldn't. And then, midweek, last week is when I got something from Pop Brothers.
Yeah,
I mean, Pop, whatever it's called,
Right.
Big Pop. So, we gave him the information back, so we've been waiting. Look, if he wouldn't have came at the last minute, the only bid you would've had was J&M.
right.
But even though you have Big Pop, you still not meeting the specification, and that's what we went on. We needed to move on.
Yeah.
I mean, to do this show, and the police chief and the mayor knows it now, this is not anything to do with Waveland, but I have had to go through the Corps of Engineers. I've had to go through the Coast Guard. I have a permit with DMR already. I have a contract with the sheriff's office already. We gotta have boats out there. We have to have clearance, and all the permits are done through these people, and they don't even have a contract yet.
I see.
And if you're looking at, it says all contract, they're just waiting to do the show, and they met every spec.
I see.
So I understand the legalities being a former councilman, but there is only a sole source, because the sole source said we wanted to use Destination America specifications, and that's what we did.
Well, it's not so much a sole source as it is we received a single bid, so,
And a single bid
Yeah.
couldn't match the specs.
yeah. And it's not a bid, it's technically a quote. Yeah,
Request for RFQ.
yeah. Kim, are we coming back for a workshop this week for a budget?
I hope so. I have everything ready for it.
Okay, because we really need to do that this week. That's why I was trying to figure out if we're gonna have that also coming back
All right.
one day this week.
You don't want to table this until we come back for that
Hey,
Well,
workshop?
before we do that, when are we talking about doing that? Do you know what day?
I'm ready whenever everybody needs to know.
All right, so we need to have a workshop this week for the budget. Everybody's aware of that. I'm talking about the next budget. And it's a have-to-have type situation. So we've already sent the advertisement to the paper today, correct, Ms. Bayard?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it's published or will be published, and then, beginning Wednesday, and then the next will be the following Wednesday. And then the public hearing is actually the 7th, Tammy? September 7th? I believe that's right.
Yes, the 7th.
Yeah, because we have to adopt it by the 14th, and of course, you can go all the way up to the 15th, but we're trying not to do that, so we're down to it. I would recommend that the board either come back on Wednesday or Thursday night of this week.
Can't be Thursday.
All right, what about Wednesday?
It has to be.
Wednesday for you, Jeremy?
Well, no, I mean, I think that's the only day we can have it.
All right, Charlie, you're good for Wednesday night?
Sure thing.
Bobby?
Yep.
All right, so we're talking about 2 days from now. I mean, the only thing about it is, I guess, like he's saying, we might find somebody else that's willing to do it, but can they get all the permits together and everything to be able to do it by the 4th? I can try to make that clear when
Well-
I'm trying to solicit somebody else, but,
I understand what we're talking about here, but as Mr. Falgo's saying,
there was only 2 that's put in. I don't think you're gonna find anyone else that's gonna put in. I mean,
May not,
there's-
yeah.
You can Google it right now, you're not gonna find anybody in the state of Mississippi. That's what I'm saying. We reached out to this big, large company in Bogalusa.
Yeah,
The guy tried everything. He even tried to get a permit so he could bid.
Yeah.
The state of Mississippi said under fireworks, you got 30 days to
Right.
get your permit. My conversation with Mr. DeSalvo, the same thing today and last week. I think Mr. Burke's brother's in there with him, and they said, well, hey, we haven't even got ours back, and we've been looking to do it.
Yeah.
This is not something you can reach out and grab.
quickly.
I understand y'all have a budget meeting, but you gotta remember, if either you can lower the specs and open up the door, or we
Yeah.
can do this the
Yeah.
way it should be done, and that's fine, but that's your call. I'm a volunteer here.
Yeah, that's
And I wanna make
exactly,
that clear too. We're volunteering here. We've spent countless hours.
And thank y'all for that.
right.
And
you're-
if we turn around, what are we gonna do? Go back to DMR, the Coast Guard, and all these people
Right.
and retract it?
And that's good to put in the record, Mr. Falgout, you're not gonna receive any income or compensation at all from this deal, correct?
Yeah, in spite of the rumors. That's true.
Well, you told me that, I just wanna make that clear for the
Well,
record.
I was gonna put it on the record anyhow.
Well,
Okay,
let me ask you
Yeah.
this. Say if you would open it up to a different spec, you basically have 16 days. I mean, can these people even get inventory?
You're not gonna get a DMR permit in 16 days,
Yes.
because if you look at it, you Google DMR right now, you need 30 days. That's why they notated that for July 28th, because when you talk to DMR, you have a 30-day
call
permit.
for a vote on it, see what they wanna do, yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead, after hearing everybody, let's go ahead and call for a vote.
Well,
We have
What's the vote gonna be?
So this is,
we
this
have a
is,
motion to approve this agreement.
all right, well, before, just for discussion, since, on the advice of the attorney, this is not a sole source, mine's gonna be a no vote, but we're coming back on Wednesday. Either try to reach out and get something where it's spec of this one, or go write the specs so it's, from what it sounds like, 5-inch shells and under, that more people are able to do it, so we actually do have 2 bids. If we have 2 bids, that's the question. It has nothing to do with the money, it has to do with.
The quotes.
No, it has everything to do with the legal advice saying this is not a sole source.
So the motion on the
No,
table is to
but before we
approve.
vote that, I've got a couple more things, though.
Okay,
I mean, just like what you're saying, Malcolm, is that it's not a sole source.
but it's a single bid,
Yeah.
it's a single bid, so,
But it's the
Quote,
only
single quote.
The only
Single
quote
quote.
that met the
Yeah.
specs.
That
Right.
matches the specs, that's right.
So, I mean,
Right.
what are we gonna learn between now and Wednesday, I guess, is what I'm.
I don't know that you can learn anything, I mean, in terms of, I can try to reach out to other resources that I know about, which are other municipalities and larger municipalities, try to see if they've got something that they know of, but it sounds like Biloxi used the same company we're talking about.
And so does Diamond Head, and so is the city of Wiggins.
Wiggins.
But and Shane's got a great
Yeah.
point here. Let's put this on record, because you're asking, you and I are both familiar with the term request for quotation.
Correct.
Or RFP. We
Right.
did. If you want, I can give you the name of the company in Bogalusa. We requested a quote, and he was unable to quote. I don't know what the name of Mr. DeSalvo's company is. Do you know? I mean, seriously, do you know what him and your brother?
Brother and
Okay.
him are partners.
Okay, so we reached out to a second source, then we reached out to a third source, then we reached out to a fourth source, which was DeSalvo, Bogalusa, Wiggins, J&M, and Big Pop.
Yeah,
Well, you open
4
it
of
up,
them, and only 1 of them met the specs.
you open it up for different specs, you still can't get the permit within 30 days. Anyway,
That's
we
it.
got 16 days.
yeah. Well, that's what he was trying to make
That's
the
what
point
we're
about.
facing.
Yeah,
Well, I mean.
And we've been working on this for over 30 days.
2 things that we're facing. One is, if it doesn't meet, I don't wanna say sole source,
yeah,
No,
but if it doesn't meet the guidelines, I guess it would be state guidelines,
yeah.
then, at what point, if this gets approved, are we putting ourselves out there for one of these other companies to come back? I guess that's my question.
Well, that's always the problem when you're dealing with estate purchasing laws about, when you can only get one quote. The response you get at the state auditor's office, keep looking, but sometimes you just can't find anything
Right.
else. And so if you make a diligent effort, and try to contact many companies and whatnot. I realize Mr. Falgo is not a city employee,
Yeah.
but he acted, I guess you'd say, as the city's agent, trying to solicit with the understanding of the mayor and the board. You could put all that in the record and, to show your good faith attempt.
Mr. Lonnie, can we get all that with them people?
Absolutely. Shane, we have all of that, and the thing is keep in mind also this insurance coverage. You talk about liability and you talk about being sued. This company is licensed in 50 states. This company has agents here. The guy's name is Jefferson Spears. He has a house here in Ward 6. Okay, so these people have been around a long time.
Yeah.
This is not their first rodeo. And to be fair with you, if you go to Biloxi, you go to Diamond Head, you go to Jordan River Communities, this year, Now put their own show out, and they solicited bids. And J&M won every one of the bids. Why? Because no one could meet the specifications. So you could have a track record. I think I sent all that to Tammy, was all of these neighborhoods from Biloxi to JCAR and all the rest of them went out for these bids and was unable to match the specifications. So you do have full track record.
I guess one easy question to ask is, tonight, does a majority of the board wish to lower the specification, try to get other proposals?
No, I mean, I say we keep the specs, but, which I'm not opposed to what we have, but the only thing that I'm concerned about is if we didn't get the second bid, then what?
Yeah,
You know, but, I mean, I'm not for lowering the specs and starting all over from scratch again.
yeah.
You know, if that's the case, then we need to do
Let-
that for next year. I mean, this
Yeah,
year,
we don't
Yeah.
have time.
this year,
let-
you don't have the time to do it right now.
Let me put one proviso, if I could. If you're gonna approve this, and I'll put some findings in the record to do that, can we just have a condition where I can at least call tomorrow and check with the state auditor's office, technical assistance, to make sure that they're satisfied, that this is the proper way to do it? Because it seems like we're only gonna get this one quote.
And I would like to add something real quick. As I said, Lonnie has done due diligence on this. Not only that, he has put together a couple of vendors that will be giving the city of Waveland a rebate on some of their sales. One of them is 40%, the other one is 30%.
These are different vendors, not this vendor?
Different vendors.
Right.
These are food vendors.
I understand.
Okay?
Right.
That are going to be, it's going to be a nice chunk of change that's going to come back to the city. So when we look at that, plus the donations that he's gotten on the water that we're going to be selling for $1 a bottle, and let's face it, out there in the heat with the thousands of people that's going to be coming in here, we're going to sell everything we've got. Okay? That is coming, clear profit back. So we're replacing quite a bit of this money that is being spent on the fireworks.
Right. I think
Okay.
those are all great things, and I really
Thank you, Mr.
appreciate the effort by Mr. Falco and yourself. I don't think the auditors are gonna care about that, but the reality is that I can check this first thing in the morning to see.
Just make sure we're good.
Yeah,
So what you're saying is, if we wanted to approve, we can approve contingent upon your phone call with the auditor.
Right.
Mr. Lonnie getting you the correspondences where he's reached
Yeah.
out to other people to find.
right.
Tammy has all that record
Yeah.
already.
So that we're
All
safe
the
as
emails
possible.
back and forth and all that stuff?
She has it, because you see, may I?
Yeah,
Sure.
Being a former councilman and hearing the trash that's out there on the street,
yeah,
believe me, we put every email out there. We've got every correspondence to the mayor, the fire department, the police chief,
All
the
right.
sheriff's office, and the Coast Guard.
Good.
And including Tammy.
Yeah.
And then also knowing what this is being done out there with some of this, you can call Tom Chain, because I had a conversation with Tom already.
okay.
Okay, so
Good.
All right,
what
thank
we're
you.
doing is not illegal. We're not representing. All we asked for was requests for quotations
I see.
based on previous specifications, and there was no source available but one.
But one.
That's gonna be in his
Tammy, you
record.
have all that correspondence he's talking about?
And who has the specs
Tammy.
that was sent
Through
out?
email, I would believe, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Lonnie?
He sent all that to you? Okay, what's that?
Do you have the specs to send to Malcolm as well on what we requested?
He's already got all the specs are the same thing as
Yeah.
Destination America from 4 or 5 years ago.
Well, he'll have it in the email that he
Yeah.
sent out to J&M and the other company as well,
Yeah.
so it'll all be there. Yeah, if you can just, Tammy, whatever he sent to you, just send to me.
Yes,
And
sir.
I'll put together the package, and we'll make it all part of this record, Shane. And I'll put my letter in the record as to what I find out from the state
Okay,
auditor.
so the question is,
Mhm.
whatever you find out tomorrow, if there's any change that is recommended, we're gonna come back Wednesday to,
Correct.
at that point, everything's
Yeah.
on hold
Right.
until Wednesday.
Well, if I can get it cleared tomorrow, then I'm assuming y'all are good to go?
Well, I mean, if the motion's gonna be approved contingent upon,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
Y'all good
the
with that?
outcome, the outcome that protects the city and,
right. Why don't you let me take a shot at telling you what I'm proposing? So if you want to approve this, and it's up to you, I'm not suggesting it one way or the other, but if you want to approve it, then it would be upon the condition that all of the correspondence that Mr. Falgu has, where his back and forth soliciting the quotation and the responses, will all be part of the record. And then secondly, that it will be conditioned upon the city attorney contacting technical assistance to state auditor to make sure that we don't have to get an actual second quote from another company to comply with state purchasing laws.
In
that
other
good?
words, second
Yeah.
quote for the same specs. right?
Same
Correct.
specs.
Yeah, we have the
Correct.
second quote, it just doesn't meet specifications.
Yeah,
That's
as far
the
as
way-
I'm concerned, that's not a
Right.
quote.
Yeah,
Okay.
All right.
exactly. That's,
All right, well, let's vote that motion
But-
with
okay,
that
we got a couple more
contingency.
questions.
No, so my deal is, I feel this motion should be tabled till Wednesday, till everything gets done, but until then, can we just get something that's quotable for 2 specs of apples to apples, of whatever that needs to be, in case what
I'll
the
try-
auditor doesn't say, that's why I'd soon,
I'll try to do that too. If-
you just be with the auditor and then make a decision,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah.
So
But
you
wait a
wanna-
minute,
so-
wait.
sense
So
to
you
get the
wanna
2
wait till,
quotes when they can't get a
Wednesday.
permit. If you get
Yeah.
another quote, now, we could do it, but you can't get a permit.
I don't-
In time.
Mayor, before you call for the motion, Jeremy's wanting to wait till Wednesday.
He wants
What's the
to
rest of the
table?
board- Right, what's the rest of the board wanna do?
From hearing what I'm hearing, that there's no way that any other vendor can get the permit within 30 days. I mean, if we go to another vendor, we don't have fireworks.
That's a possibility.
Unless you do what Jeremy's talking about is lower it down to 5-inch specs. But then the
Yeah.
problem is, could they meet the timeline?
But you've still got to get a permit.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying, the timeline.
well,
Yeah.
may I ask the question? If we put out to these individual companies that we were using the same specification as Destination America, that is apples to apples, because this company did their research and went pulled their files and they quoted it the same day. This other company said, we can't bid because we can't match it. The other company says, we can't bid because we can't match those specs. I'm not licensed. Big Pop says, I can't match it either. So they did have apples and apples. All 4 of them knew that we were going with the same specifications as Destination America.
Right.
So it was out there already. So if you're gonna rewrite the specs, you've already wrote the spec. The specs were Destination America. And only one bidder came forward. If anybody else could have done it, they would have called Tammy and says, give me the specifications that y'all use, but did they do that? No, there was only one, these people. So you have 4 companies that had the opportunity to do their homework, and none of them came back doing their homework, except for one. So there is apples and apples.
Charlie, how do you feel about it?
I'm ready to go with, contingent upon what Malcolm finds out tomorrow.
All right, Shane, did you have any questions?
Is that your motion, Charlie?
Oh, no, they
Yes.
already had a motion to approve it.
Yeah, but I was suggesting that that motion be revised to allow for these conditions.
Yes.
With that
As soon as you find
contingency.
something out tomorrow, we'll come back Wednesday night and we'll go with it. Now, my one question that I have on here, I know this has to have board approval. Do we have a signature as for the, buyer of the contract here yet?
Mayor would be.
From the
From these people here?
J&M?
Yeah.
I'm assuming their quote is their offer. And so as soon as the city's willing to accept their offer, they'll sign that contract, fax it back, or email it.
Oh, no, they already signed theirs. They're
We
waiting for
have
somebody
theirs
to wait.
selling, we just need the buyer.
He's willing to come in at any time, Malcolm.
Yeah, well, I think it has this electronic signature
Yes.
right there.
But
I don't know
now,
if you saw
you're
this,
saying
but
we'll come
Brandon
back
signed it.
Wednesday.
Brandon Spears signed it, Charlie.
Yeah, Brandon Spears signed it, but who's gonna sign where it says buyer?
Well, that's the city.
That's the
If the
city.
city,
So
if the
So that'd
city
be the
is,
mayor's signature.
If
correct,
y'all approve it, I'll
Yeah.
sign it.
right.
Okay.
But you said come back Wednesday. You
Wednesday
talking about-
night, let's see what happens tomorrow.
So y'all want to table
So
this
you
till
wanna
Wednesday
table
night?
till Wednesday? Is what you're saying?
Jeremy, what you wanna do?
Table to Wednesday to get the answer from the auditor tomorrow.
Wanna table?
Jeremy
Yeah, no,
wants to
just-
table.
No, table, because if he's gonna get it either way, the worst thing I think could happen is agree tonight, these people move forward and he says illegal, and then we're on the hook for $16,000 and still in the same boat.
So you saying table Wednesday night?
Yeah, but meanwhile, go see if we can get some stuff that there's 2 quotes in case this does not work. Hopefully, it's sole source, we can just approve this on Wednesday. That is
Well-
my ultimate goal.
Let's
You
quit calling it sole source now. It's a
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
bid.
Single
Okay,
bid,
single
I'm sorry.
quote, single
Single
quote,
quote.
yeah.
Like, I know how many times.
Bobby?
I'm just, to my point, I just don't wanna get caught with our pants down, and next thing we know, we have all this
And we don't have any fireworks.
hoopla going on, we don't have no fireworks.
And at that point, we're gonna be having egg all over our face, the whole city,
Yeah.
because it states on the flyer, fireworks.
What
And
would you-
every vendor that we've engaged every person that is involved in this is based on, there's gonna be a huge fireworks display at 8 o'clock.
Would you want to approve tonight, Bobby?
I'm ready to approve it. I mean, it sounds like all the due diligence have been done, all the companies have been reached out to. Everyone that could put a bid in did, and the ones that didn't, couldn't meet the specs.
So you willing to approve with the contingencies that Malcolm had put in place?
Yes, we could do that.
And Tammy, you have all those emails and all that as well?
Yes, sir, as far as I know, I'll go through my emails and check and print them all, or forward them to Malcolm.
And this was the only one that met the specs.
I mean, she didn't have anything to do
That
with
I've
the spec.
had, this was all I was given right here,
Okay.
this J&M.
We started calling Shane on July 28th, and we haven't got a response. We're sitting here August, and now we
Yeah,
finally got one
those
response,
conditions.
and I can't meet the bid.
All right, so Malcolm, one question. If it's approved tonight,
Mm-hmm.
contingent upon meeting all those requests,
Yep.
Jeremy just said we don't want to be on the hook for 16,000 and still not have fireworks. What's the odds of that?
Well, if I call the state auditor and they say that we don't have to have 2 quotes, then we can move forward. Okay? I think that's what
If he
you-
says we,
that's the
if he
ultimate
says we
answer.
do, we don't release anything until you get
Correct.
the approval from the state auditor.
Correct,
And then after that's,
right.
then you'll release the signature.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go through all the details of all the efforts that were made to try to get 2 quotes.
Okay.
And Shane, I'll put this on the record. If Malcolm finds anything else that needs to be clarified or done, I'll get this company to withdraw their bid, so y'all can get this right. This is not
Well, we
about
don't need 'em to-
favoring one company.
We don't need them to withdraw the quote, we need 2 quotes. I mean, the point is.
Well, the point
yeah.
is, we have 2 quotes, Malcolm. The problem is that this guy's got 25,000 on a tractor trailer ready to come down here, and
Yeah.
it's loaded.
Yeah.
And this has been going on since the 28th.
Yeah,
If there was any other companies, I'd be putting bids in front of all of y'all, but no one can bid.
yeah,
And that's just what it is.
yeah, it's,
That's like going out with a sole source. If you spec out a police car, nobody can give you that police car, then that's a sole source.
yeah,
And like you said, this isn't a sole source.
yeah.
There's 5 companies that had the opportunity to bid, only one of them bid,
Single bid, single
and one
quote.
of them came, Johnny come lately, and says, I can't bid.
Yeah,
All right, thank you, Mr. Long.
Let me just say something. I understand, some of you are sitting up here, you're candidates coming up for election, and you're being very, very overcautious on this. And I understand this. I do understand it. But again, we do not want the city of Waveland to be the laughing stock because of the failed Labor Day event. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Brenda. All right, so we will, number 4, be a motion to approve the agreement with the contingencies that Malcolm had stated in his comments.
right. The 2 contingencies or conditions are, number 1, that we put all of the correspondence that Mr. Falgout had where he attempted the solicitation and the responses in the record. And second, that I contact the state auditor's office technical assistance to make sure that we can move forward with a single quote under these unusual circumstances.
All right, we'll vote that motion in with those contingencies. Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
For the reasons, I think we wait till Wednesday now.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Motion passed, thank you. 5 on the agenda, motion to approve a quote from Portable Services in Mississippi in the amount of $600 for placement and removal of 4 porta-johns and 2 ADA accessible porta-johns.
I'll move.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Something to say about that, if you don't mind. May I approve?
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry, I couldn't see.
Talking about this item, it's just
Yes,
coming up.
This item.
Yeah,
Yeah, I reached out to King Waste. You may want to table this till Wednesday, because I reached out to King Waste. They said they would do the exact same thing, the same units, plus they would do sanitizer stations for $500. So,
Thank
there
you.
it is.
Thank you, Rhonda. Yes, sir.
Mr. Richard Santiago was called on last Tuesday, the Monday before last, and last Friday, to furnish a quotation from King Waste for 2 handicap portalets, 6 regular portalets as of this time. It was to go to me or Tammy. Tammy, have you received anything from King Waste?
No, sir, I've just
Okay,
received.
I
the
also, on those same dates, put in a request for Mr. Joey Boudin. He agreed to give it to us, and then his company was sold. Also, I sent out a request for quotation to United Portalets. As of right now, there's been no quotation for pricing. The only one that came through is Mr. Callahan. What's the name of his company? The one you have in front of you?
Yeah, the
Portable
portable
service.
services, yeah, Mississippi.
5 portalet companies were given, Malcolm, I'll send you this. 5 companies were given opportunity for portalets. This is the only company that responded.
Thank you, Mr. Lonnie.
I'm gonna forward you this contact.
I was gonna ask you if you would send a,
I'll forward it to you right now.
okay, thank you.
Is that a contact information or is that a quote?
This is I reached out to Steve Seymour with King Waste. This is it's in writing. I'll forward this to you. We can get it, as a written quote, I'm sure, in 2 weeks.
Sure.
I'm sure it won't take long.
Sorry, sorry, granted, if this wasn't, and granted, this is stuff, obviously, we've had,
The city would do, yeah.
no, obviously, yeah, but we've had personnel get suspended over not getting 2 quotes for whatever. Isn't getting portalets pretty a standard things we do for near all the time, whatever else? Is this
Yeah.
something that y'all can just go out for quotes for?
Yes.
Like it'd be an
Well,
easy
that
one?
we usually just use.
Yeah.
No, but just get the vendors for it, like Catherine could probably do this in 20 minutes. Get 2 quotes for their,
Yep, we
That-
sure can. You really don't even need to be on the agenda.
So,
Yeah.
so Tammy, you'll get some quotes and get some portalets and stuff down there?
yeah.
Sure, yes, sir.
And does this even have to be a agenda?
It
item?
doesn't have to be an agenda item if y'all wanna remove it.
It didn't, I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of it, because we weren't using King Waste, so I wanted to make sure that y'all were.
Just go do it,
were on the-
do it the
My
same.
question is, are we sure that this is gonna be enough to supply the
You better have
crowd
more
that
than enough.
we're expecting?
So let me tell you, I haven't really been involved in the planning of this that much, so Mr. Lonnie, Miss Brenda's been doing a lot of the legwork. So, but we can get more if you guys want more. It's just, tell me what you desire. So,
The county's already said they would step up and help out. We did it in the conference room the other day, when you walked out here.
okay,
Mr. Vick and, Sammy McCall, and all said that they would be putting out extra, trash receptacles. And they were gonna talk to Scotty about putting some portlets up and
Shane,
down the beach.
I wanted to
outside
renew
the
y'all
beach.
thing and have it do an
Okay,
administrative
now-
like we always do.
Yeah, can you change that motion just to, have
Withdrawal.
Just remove it from the,
city clerk,
Authorize?
authorized to, get the portalets for the
yes, sir.
event?
motion to authorize city clerk to get the, prices for the portalets.
And
for the
remove,
event.
and remove number 5 from the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
You have a second?
Do I have a second on that? All right, we'll vote that. Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3,
Yes.
Mr. LaFontaine. Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, I'll ask Lonnie one thing. Would you get with, Vic and the county sand beach crew, ask them to sweep that parking lot
We
at
had
the
a meeting.
lighthouse?
We did all of these meetings, Charlie in the mayor's conference room. We didn't do it individual at our home. We have a meeting that we've met 4 times in the conference room. Lowe's, is he behind me?
Yeah.
Back there.
Lowe's including everyone. The city of Bay St. Louis is supposed to let y'all use the street sweeper. They're gonna be, Vic's helping. Everybody's been contacted.
Okay.
The only reason why Tammy didn't know about the portlets because she
Yes, sir.
got called away to a meeting, but we called these portlet companies
Yes, sir.
from upstairs. So, yeah, the garbage cans are gonna be put up and down the beaches. The sheriff's office, Chief Prendergrass was in a meeting along with, the assistant, not the assistant chief, but Dorn, thank you.
Yep.
They were all in this meeting. Every time we have a meeting, we don't do it all. We sit here with city officials and we say, what do y'all need done? Here's what we do. We get on the phone, we get it done. The sheriff's office has already been, Charlie, that they're gonna put extra patrols up and down the beach to help y'all. Mike's aware of this, Dawn's aware of this. Everybody's got the paperwork that's, been CC'd. Every time we did anything, the proper department got CC'd. Bo actually is going to pick up, 12 new trash receptacles that we're donating to the city for y'all to use in the county. So Bo's been in the meeting also. Police department's been in the meeting.
Yep.
AMR ambulance has been notified, they're gonna have an ambulance on thing. So we've done all of this upstairs.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Lonnie. Thank y'all.
Mr. Lonnie.
All right, 6 on the agenda, motion to approve a quote to hire Big Noise Productions LLC for the upcoming Back to Beach Labor Day event in the amount of $1,850.
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second.
All right, discussion on 6.
It's not required to have 2 quotes for that, and it's not the usual, like, getting portalet, so I recommend you vote on this one tonight.
All right, we'll vote 6, Ward
Wait,
1, Mr.
whoa,
Burke.
whoa, whoa.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Who's Big Noise Productions?
That's
What,
Aaron.
what are they
Aaron
doing?
Lee,
I think he's done probably most of our stuff.
he's done all of our
Yeah.
stuff since we
He
inherited
sets the
him
stage
from
up, right?
Destination Waveland in 2015.
It is all the setups, right?
He does, he
Yeah.
comes with all the setups, not the stage, Silver Slippers supplying that, right, Mr. Lonnie?
They supply the stage and lighting, but they gotta get your own production company. Here's another example where there's nobody else in Hancock County or the state that does this work. Aaron Lee's the only one that does this work. We asked for other quotations, there was none.
So they provide the stage lights and what have you.
In the
Yeah.
sound, the sound.
But don't these bands come with amplifiers and what have you?
They do all of it.
Oh, yeah, they do all the
They
sound,
from,
Charlie.
They do everything where they set it up, they handle electricity. We have the county donating the big generators, Waveland generators to make things show this is all powered and it's not hooked into the city and causing any problem. And what he does, he comes, sets it up, he regulates it, make sure y'all don't have an overload, make sure these bands all amplify right. And it's more for a safety thing than it is about a money thing.
All right, thank you.
And that, Charlie?
That's it, Mayor.
All right, sir, thank you. All right, Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Thank you. 7 on the agenda, motion to approve a payment of invoices submitted by Circuit Clerk, Ms. Kendra
I'll move.
Nikes.
Third
Okay.
seconds.
Discussion on 7.
She finished all of her work. The only thing that she lacks to do is to mail out the notifications, and those should go out shortly, probably within the next few weeks. And I've confirmed that with her.
Jillian was working on it.
That's good for her.
All right. Did we vote that? No.
Yes, sir.
Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Thank you. 8 on the agenda, motion to approve travel for the zoning clerk, Ms. John Conrad, and blighted property clerk, Ms. Hannah McCraney, to attend a 2-day workshop regarding community rating
I'll move.
system.
Burke seconds.
Any discussion on 8? Hearing none, we'll vote. Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Thank you.
That'd be smart.
9 on the agenda, motion to approve the amended budget as submitted for fiscal year ending September 30, 2022.
I'll move for discussion.
I'll
Okay.
second.
All right. Ms. Kimberly? I'm gonna run through this real fast.
Okay.
I guess the first thing would be, revenues. Start with revenues. So,
I think they're looking for the highlights.
yep,
Yeah.
we approved the,
We
we-
have a huge increase in our ad valorem notice, versus what we budgeted for. It's almost 900,000 in total. The next biggest item was our sales tax. We are over by almost 160,000 for sales tax. So we had a wonderful year for income.
so just in the 100 fund, the general fund,
Yes,
we are at 857,000 above what we had approved in last year's budget
yes,
for fiscal year 22.
yes.
In the tax revenue, and just because it's more ignorance, what day do we typically get our diversion from the state? Because do we have one more check that
We
is
do
whacked?
have,
So it's August and September, well, we'll get August ones in this fiscal year.
yes,
It's like the 20, like, it's not gonna wait,
The-
we definitely have one more coming.
Yes,
If you'll notice, she went ahead and, she calls it extrapolate. That's where she's guesstimating what we're gonna get based upon past revenue streams and the trend. And so she's calculated that in.
And then the other thing, and Malcolm, you
Correct.
might know better.
That's
than
right.
Laura,
Yeah.
yes.
And when it comes to ad valorem tax, our
Yes.
big months, municipalities' big months are December, January, correct? And then the ones that are getting redeemed now, when do we get that check? Isn't that a,
So some people
Dis-
pay their taxes like before the end of the year because they want to get the tax break. Okay.
Yeah.
So you get a chunk there. That actually, when it's paid like at the last week of December or whatever, actually does not get remitted to you. In other words, turned over to the city until
February?
the following month, and sometimes in February. A lot of people come in and pay their property tax on the last week of January, and you don't get that money until sometimes March. And then the other big time is the tax sale, which is the last week of August,
Is
give or
that-
take. And you get that money sometimes in September and sometimes in October.
okay, so it might
Yeah.
be October when
Yeah.
this big one
Correct.
comes.
Right.
Gotcha.
We did talk to Mr. Ladner,
Yeah.
Jimmy Ladner, myself and Kim, and he said that if all goes well, he will remit to us by the 20th of the month, as I recall, because he's required to give it to us between the 15th and the 20th. And so hopefully we'll have it before October 1.
Yes.
So yes, those numbers could be even higher.
Okay, I just didn't
Yes.
wanna shortchange us.
Yes,
Right.
they
Know
could be
when you
even
get 'em.
higher by the end of the year, definitely.
Do y'all want to move on to the expense side?
Yes.
Okay.
The biggest thing with the expense is fuel.
Can we go,
Uniforms went up, fuel was crazy.
can we go back just for a minute though? One thing, the 399,
We're on the revenue side?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Looks like we're a little low on the revenues from the metered sales. Looks like, approved was 3.3, we're at about 3.2, so do we anticipate that catching up by the end of the, fiscal year?
What specific account are you on?
300,
The meter.
399
So you're in the totals?
totals.
Okay.
I'm not sure, we do have one more billing to come out, so it could catch up, but I'm not so sure it's gonna catch up to those amounts.
At least based upon what we received
Our
data,
clients.
yeah.
Yeah.
The history,
So my question is there any transfers from utilities to general?
yes, we have, the 350 that we usually transfer, and we've already transferred half of that.
Okay, so without that transfer, does that make us whole there? The second half of that,
Without the transfer?
without making the
Okay.
second half of the transfer, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 350,000
It
is
is,
what it, that usually is, so if we've already transferred half of it,
we have,
if we don't transfer the other half, that makes that department whole and balanced?
yes, it would.
Okay, so what do we need to do on the,
So I could
General.
hold that transfer,
Yes.
the last transfer, until the last meeting in August, and decide then how much, if we make this to a zero, then I can make the transfer and we'll be fine,
correct, but if
Um,
not, just hold the one,
yes. the transfer.
The last meeting,
half of the 350, I
the
think
last
it
meeting in
was.
September.
Yeah.
No, I have
August?
the last meeting in August is our last, but the last entry we can do.
Yeah, okay.
Technically, I guess you say the budget workshop we're gonna have is gonna be the last meeting then. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
It should be Wednesday night.
No,
Any other questions on revenue?
No,
Moving
I'm
on
good
to expense?
Yep.
All right. Probably wanna hit the high points, just.
Yes, like I was saying, the fuel, uniforms, the only fund we have that may be our 10% would be police, and that's because of the huge fuel increase. Their uniforms, let's see, what else?
While she's looking for that, we were talking about that today, and we've spent a lot of time on it. Kim's only been here since 6 o'clock this morning working on this nonstop, and I don't even know if she took a break for lunch, so. And Catherine has been right there with her up until right before this meeting. So I only came in latter part of the afternoon, but the, what she's talking about on the 10% is when you exceed 10% of the expense of a particular department, then you're required to also publish it as an amendment. And I believe we figured it out was like 199 would be the 10%. And I think we're just over 200, as I recall.
But I think Malcolm was gonna check into, is the 10% considered expense or is it net?
Right.
Because if it's net, then we're okay.
Right.
Because we have vehicles for the police that did not come in, that we're gonna have to give, do that expense back and put it on the new year budget.
Correct. And, it doesn't, the only difference is you make the amendment, you have to make the amendment because you have to go to actual in August. But the only difference is if it is above 10%, we have to publish that one item. And it's just to give the public notification of it, not for approval.
But now, overall, the police department is I don't see that being 10%. Isn't that is that a running total?
So you basically, what you do is you take the budget that you adopted last year that was published, and if my recollection was, it was like 1,997,000 and change, or something like that. And so you take 10% of that, that's 199,000, and then it might have been 199,400,000. But anyhow, the point being is that if you exceed that amount in actual expenditures, then you have to do the publication at 10%. And so we're right at a little over 200,000, as I recall, right?
Right. Now, if they let us do the net, you'll see if you take, what you're seeing is if you take the negative 224 back off, then we're under that 10%. And that's what Malcolm's gonna find out. Can we use the net number?
Right.
Or does it have to be strictly expense number?
Right. And if you look on line items, let's see, let me get to it. Hang on just a minute. The one where we have mobile equipment,
It's still under though. It's
If we're at 150.
It's still under the 10%,
right now.
even with because if you started at 2,007,709 and you extrapolate into 2,220,000,
go to line item 750 mobile equipment and then 760 other heavy equipment.
Okay.
You see that?
So that's the
Okay.
two.
So those are the police cars right there, and I think the mobile equipment is probably the equipment to go in the police cars,
The mobile equipment was the trucks.
the
We have
trucks,
trucks.
the two trucks,
The 140 is the Tahoes.
the Tahoes, okay.
And there's no way we're getting them this year?
Mike is trying, he keeps pushing it, but as of today, we met this morning and we don't think neither set, the trucks or the Tahoes.
This is also happening in another city where I'm working, where
All
they're
over.
telling us the same thing. It's up and down the coast. It's interesting enough, if you'll notice, they used to have those trucks on state contract where you could buy them. You can't even get them under state contract now. The only thing they're selling under state contract is the Ranger and something called the Maverick, which I'm not even sure where that brand is. But anyway, the point I was trying to make is that you see where it shows the expenditure as police admin, right below 760, it's 224,500, right, Kim?
Yes.
And so we've exceeded the 199 by 24,000. Doesn't mean that anything other than the fact that you just have to amend to actual, and that may be the only one we'll have to publish.
I guess what I'm saying is even with the extrapolated totals, you're still less than the 10%, even with those numbers in there.
Will they go after your approved budget?
Right.
is what they use.
Right.
So that would be your 200
2
and
million,
some.
2,007,709, and your extrapolated is 2,224,93.
You know, that's a good point, Shane.
That's less than the 10%.
The way the statute reads, it talks about the original budget, if you're
The
10%
original.
over the original budget, but if
Right.
you use that number, you're right,
You're
it
not
would be
gonna be
less.
above, even with the, even
Right,
if
if
you
we
leave all
make
that
it
in
to the
there,
2.
you're not gonna be above the 10%.
Yeah, I'll have to ask that as well, because frankly, I don't understand why it can't be based upon the net, and the net would be
Right.
certainly well below. I'll check on that tomorrow when I'm calling state auditors, technical assistants. Is there any other big items on here that
The
you want?
only other one would be insurance. Our insurance was a lot.
What line item is that?
All of them.
All of
Yeah.
them, but the code, let's see, let me find it, is 625.
And that's crazy across the board. I mean, it's almost
Yeah,
double.
it's in every department.
Yeah.
It
double
wasn't
in
just
utility
one.
authority.
I see what you're saying, the cumulative total of all of them in all
Of all of
departments. Yeah.
Yes. Kind of like fuel, it was across the board in every
Yeah.
department.
Yep.
I have a question. On workers' comp, do we have a big payment due in the end of this month or something?
Yes, it, September 1, or
Okay.
September 10th.
Okay.
And on that point, I was explaining to Kim how that works, and Tammy too, because, you know, it's their first time on this, but they give you an estimate at the beginning of the year, and you pay based upon the estimate, and then they do an audit of sorts to where they actually see, you know, it's based upon not a percentage. Well, it is based upon a percentage of your actual payroll. So they come in to look at your actual payroll and use your modification rate, mod rate, and then calculate it. A lot of times you owe some money at that point, but I don't think we've had our audit yet. According to Tammy, they haven't notified us. Kim says no as well. So we may have a little bit of a surprise there once we get our audit, but, you know.
Like I said, I can check in with them and see what
Yeah.
it is.
I called today, the municipal liability plan, the lady who deals with it was out, Miss Charlene.
So, so when would you be published if, even though I think it's below the 10%, if it is, just go, will we have to get it published before?
The way it works is you make a decision tonight to
Yeah.
accept the budget amendment, and then we'll determine by calling the state auditor if we have to publish just the police department budget amendment.
Gotcha.
And then we have to publish it, I think you publish it for 2 weeks, as I recall, twice. So it doesn't,
It's not going to affect
The
our
new
budget,
No.
whatever, that's
No.
what I was
No.
trying to figure out.
No, it
too.
no, it's not to make it effective. It's
Gotcha.
just to give public notification.
Gotcha.
So, I guess my question is, you've got a general fund total approved of 7.3 and an expenditure extrapolated of 7.7. What are we gonna do to make up the 386,000? What's the plan there?
From the extra income,
If you go back, remember we were talking about your
The
increase
800,
above,
the
The
800,
increase,
the 857,000
plus the additional sales tax.
and minus the transfer in.
yes.
Do we need to take that off?
So that minus the transfer in, we basically drop it
Yeah.
So half of it.
We didn't
to,
want to cut
yeah.
that. They were good?
That-
You're still in the
Yes, we had a wonderful year for the ad valorem, and when we spoke to Mr. Ladner, he feels like it's gonna be that way again for us this coming year. That
Sales
we,
tax too.
we actually went over what he predicted we would we went over it. And he feels like it'll be again this year coming up.
Yeah. Surprisingly, and it was a surprise to me, the part that is really just going crazy is the car tags. Y'all are getting a whole lot of money from car tags, and when he was telling me on average what you get per month, I was pretty shocked. But he said it's just been going really well, so.
Well, our mill value increased $9,000 over last year.
Yep.
That's pretty big.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he was telling me we're getting like 23 or 33 a month, thousand a month in car tags, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot. It's amazing.
So with the 857,000, we're taking off the 175 for the transfer in from utilities. That balances out utilities. That still leaves us about 300,000 to the good in the general fund.
Yes,
Is what that's gonna end up leaving us.
yes.
To finish out the fiscal year, a month.
If everything plays out that we extrapolated, yes. And it should, because I was very conservative with it.
Yeah, that's what I like about you. You're conservative. I'm a conservative too. All right, any other big items in the amended budget?
The only other one I wanted to say is the maintenance agreements. And we probably, I think Catherine had said it's time that we go back out for new agreements. So for the new budget, that we did have to make, you'll see on each line for the maintenance agreements, they were a lot higher. So they did go up, and that's the only other expense that went up.
I should know this, but I'm not sure I do know. Do we do these bid them out annually, or how do y'all do your maintenance agreements?
I think it was 4 years, Catherine said.
For a 4-year period?
Mhm.
Okay, well then you probably are time to do it again.
She did say it was time.
Okay.
She talked to me about the other day.
Gentlemen, any questions about the budget amendment? All right, we have a motion and a second.
Can we get just a second there?
All right.
Just a couple minutes. Actually, you won't need to transfer anything. I mean, you can still do the transfer. You have the transfer budgeted into the expenditures
I do.
already in the utility department, so it balances that. It shows 175
I do.
under budget.
Mhm.
So you've already got that in.
Yes.
Why didn't you say that?
If you want me to change it, I will. I'm not gonna argue about it.
No, it's already in there. It's already in there. I just seen it.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm good.
You good?
Ready for a vote?
I'm good.
All right, We will vote this amendment then. Ward one, Mr. Burke.
Burke, yes.
Ward two, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward three, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward four, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank y'all so much for the hard work.
Mr. So, before I know it's not, so, nothing tomorrow, Wednesday, we're gonna need a
Recess.
budget
Everything.
meet,
Workshop.
we need to
Budget-
recess this meeting for
budget.
Wednesday?
Yes.
Budget work.
And what are we
Yes.
gonna have prepared for us on Wednesday? Are we gonna have anything prepared to see beforehand, or is it gonna be initial?
I can go ahead and send you the income side. That way y'all can look at it, and see. Catherine and I will go back to working on expenses and meeting with the department heads, and try to finish that by Wednesday.
Like, I know it's close, but I guess,
But
what-
we do have the income side.
and I know we've always done different. We will always like to do piece by piece opposed to trying to have marathons. Would being income be enough? You think that'd be enough of a meeting for us? I mean, everybody wants to start seeing expenses, but whenever you try to tackle
You gotta
everything
set
at
your
one time.
revenues before you can even start on your expenses.
Yeah,
Right.
so all we should probably plan on doing on Wednesday is worrying about the income.
Sounds good.
Like, is that
I
agreed?
just,
Yeah.
will we have time, cause we would have to have another, workshop, like, soon
Probably
for
next-
expenses.
With the way that I mean, have you started on expenses?
Can you send,
What are we looking at with expenses? I know insurance is going up, fuel's going up, all
Right.
those things. Same thing that we're seeing in this budget.
Exactly.
Even going
Same
up that
thing.
much more for next year,
Yes.
so
Yes.
have you got any kind of rough idea? I mean, are we gonna be looking
Not
at?
as a total, I do not.
and I guess just internally wise, and I mean, just speaking for myself, knowing the income to figure out what else, but sometimes and it was fine, but we had more time, we got presented a budget, and I mean, we had to cut $500,000 off it, I don't even remember sometimes.
Right.
How close do y'all think y'all are gonna be able to get to about presenting us a balanced budget before, like, so most of the decisions are made? Do y'all think that's a
Do
real?
you want expenses Wednesday too?
No, I'm just talking, looking forward, how, like, do y'all think it's gonna be pretty darn close of department heads? And I'm just saying, like, they have been, sometimes have, the whole wish list was presented to us.
Right,
And it
right.
just took so much longer, like, we understood, sometimes we're asking for, it doesn't make sense, why are we discussing it?
Right, well, what I had done is, I have all of what they want,
Yeah.
and I put it on my spreadsheet, and then I'm gonna have their paperwork. So if you have questions of what they're wanting, then I will have everything for you. Or they can come and present it to you like they did before.
No, that's fine, I just don't want to say like, hey, like, that's great you're asking for, but we don't have the money, like, be
Right.
realistic. Like,
Right.
is it a realistic budget, you know, like,
Yeah,
like, could,
it
if,
will be. I mean,
like,
Yeah.
generally speaking, I guess it's the mayor's budget that the alderman approves, like, Mike, I guess it's your budget that we're approving, so like, how close is that revenue to expenditure gonna be to us? Like, are we gonna be $50,000 off or $300,000 off?
So you want to be as close to home as.
Like, I just don't want, I wanna be realistic so we can make the hard decisions instead of saying, hey,
yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
my thing is that really should come into your capital budget side of it, not necessarily your operating side, because, I mean, we should get a balanced budget presented to us in an operating side
That's right.
for your general fund. Because, I mean, like we've all talked about before, you know, I don't think any of us can tell the police department or fire department, you know, you don't need this safety item or that safety item.
That's right.
They have X number of dollars to work within their budget and provide a service. I think when we start getting into all of the things like you're talking about, the wish list stuff was more always on the capital side for like the vehicles and all that kind of stuff is what you're getting to.
yeah,
right?
like, if that's
we
the
did
stuff
before.
that,
That's right.
and just because we're under the wire, I don't want that to bog us down on getting,
No.
I don't think it will.
okay.
Jeremy, I think once
I feel
you
good
see what the projections are in growth and the assessments, and then also just in the revenue streams from sales tax and the other big items,
So like,
you'll kind of know what your
Okay.
discretionary amount is, if you want to call it that,
yeah,
as to what you can work with.
yeah,
Yeah,
'cause
when you
the
get,
additional
when you
thing.
get close enough to where you know almost the actual, what the final revenue's gonna be, that's, you can make
Right.
more realistic,
That's right.
expenditures.
yeah, 'cause
Right.
truth be told, probably 94% of this money is spent before we even anybody makes the decision.
Pretty much is.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, could I get a motion to recess until Wednesday
6.
at
I
6?
move.
That's what I was
Before we vote on this, is it possible we could start at 5:30? I mean, is that tough for y'all? Because we can try to get in and out of here
I'm
quicker.
good.
Is that too hard?
Except everybody else, I'm good at
I think
5:30.
I know
5:30.
Shane, you have a schedule. I'm not sure you can make it by 5:30.
I'm gonna look right now.
Okay.
Let me see.
Jeremy, you?
Let me see. Let me look at my calendar now.
I'm good for 5:30.
Perfect.
So Wednesday, we just wanna focus income, correct?
5:32.
Yeah, and to the extent that you can tell them any big tickets that you know are gonna be
5:30.
increases over last year expenses. Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody asked me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Charlie. We should have asked you first.
I was
I'm good
looking
till
right
8
at you.
o'clock Thursday night.
Pardon me?
I'm good till 8 o'clock Thursday night.
Oh,
Starting Wednesday at
What comes
Yeah,
on
we can do
Thursday?
that.
5.
What comes on at 8 o'clock Thursday night?
we vote you?
Huh?
What comes on at 8 o'clock Thursday night?
That's the mattress ball Thursday night.
All right. All right, we'll vote that motion in. This is a motion to recess until Wednesday at 5:30 for a budget workshop. Ward 1, Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Ward 2, Mr. Richardson.
Yes.
Ward 3, Mr. LaFontaine.
Yes.
And Ward 4, Mr. Piazza.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank y'all.
Tell me no and let's see what happens.